Hi everyone, my name's Simon and welcome to another episode of the Maserati Guy. So if this is your first time at the channel, thanks for tuning in. I hope you enjoy this episode. If you do enjoy it, don't forget to subscribe, give the like a click. It'd be great to have you in the team. Today we're going to be demystifying one of the most controversial features of the Maserati Gran Turismo, namely the MC Shift robotised manual gearbox. Now, before I bought the Gran Turismo, I did a lot of research online about the different variants that were available, and I cannot tell you the number of times that I heard car reviewers complaining about the MC Shift transmission. They would say it was jerky, it was horrible in town, the clutches wore out after 250 miles or something ridiculous. I understand that it's difficult for a reviewer to really appreciate the nuances of a car in the short time that they have available to review it. But this is something that's been an issue not just for the Maserati Gran Turismo, but also for the original Lamborghini Gallardo, the original R8, Audi R8 with the R-Tronic gearbox. They all had this similar, the M3 sequential manual, they all had this kind of robotized manual gearbox. So in this episode, we're just going to be reminding ourselves of the different types of transmissions that you'll find in cars today, and then we'll look at how the Maserati MC Shift gearbox and transmission fits into that overall scheme. Here are the four key components of a transmission system: the engine, the clutch, the gearbox, and the differential. We need a clutch because sometimes the wheels are stationary, but the engine must be running at all times. In a manual car, pressing the clutch pedal disengages the clutch plate from the flywheel, and releasing it allows torque to be applied gradually to the gearbox and wheels. In an electro-hydraulic clutch, the clutch pedal is replaced by a hydraulic actuator which is operated electrically. The third type of clutch is a torque converter, in which an impeller spun by the engine induces, by means of a viscous fluid, motion in a second impeller which drives the gearbox. There are two main types of gearbox: a traditional gearbox in which one shaft is shifted in order to change the ratios. In this diagram, when the blue gears at the bottom are shifted into the red positions, it changes from a low ratio to a high ratio. The second type of gearbox is an epicyclic gearbox, which consists of a sun wheel in the centre, planet wheels around it, and an annulus or ring gear. Restricting the motions of each of these components using clutches produces different ratios. A full manual transmission consists of a manual clutch and a traditional manually shifted gearbox. The clutch pedal controls the position of the clutch plate against the flywheel, and the gear stick selects the various ratios in the gearbox. In a fully automatic transmission, the engine is connected through a viscous coupling to a gearbox consisting of either one or more epicyclic components. A computer known as a transmission control unit takes inputs from the engine, the throttle position and the wheels in order to control the gear ratios. In a dual clutch transmission, you have two separate clutches controlling two separate gearboxes, one for the odd gears and one for the even gears. Switching the clutches will change from one gearbox to the other, therefore changing the ratios. A robotized manual transmission is identical to a traditional manual transmission, except that the clutch pedal and the gear lever are replaced by hydraulic actuators. These are controlled by a TCU, which takes inputs from the engine, the throttle position, and the paddle shifters. So you can see from that technical description how the MC Shift gearbox is really a hybrid of traditional manual clutch, traditional manual gearbox, but automated and controlled through a transmission control unit in order to provide a robotized or a mechanized version of a manual transmission. It's quite different from an automatic. It doesn't pretend to be an automatic. One of the things that slightly annoys me about this car is that when you get into it first and start it up, it starts up in auto mode, as if that's kind of the default. My view is that this car by default should be manual, and you know, it's for you to put it into automatic if you feel that you need to put it into automatic for any reason. So when you do drive in a manual and you have it set on sport mode, and you're using the flappy paddles, it is just like driving a manual, except that the work is done for you and it's done better. The clutch engagement is quicker, the shifting of the cogs is quicker. It's basically all the benefits of a manual, but with the benefits, but also sort of augmented with the benefits of computer automation and mechanical actuation. If you add to that the fact that this is a rear transverse mounted gearbox, you also have almost perfect weight distribution. It reduces space behind the engine, so that means that the engine can be set further back behind the front wheels, and it really does become more of a front mid-engined car rather than a pure front-engined car. It's certainly not intended to be a replacement for a torque converter automatic. So there is that lag, but you have to remember that what you're getting is a manual transmission which is automated, computerized, and made incredibly rapid in its operation by the use of computers and actuators and hydraulic actuators, both to control the clutch and to engage the different gears. My own view is that the MC Shift gearbox suits this car much better than the automatic. When I was test driving cars before buying this one, I drove an automatic. That was the first one I drove, and you feel a little bit isolated, disconnected from that wonderful engine. You know, I know a lot of people will say, oh, this is just a luxurious GT, it's just designed to be, driven gently across Europe. It's not a sports car, so why would you want a manual transmission or anything other than a torque converter automatic? Well, it does have a Ferrari engine, or Ferrari designed engine up front. I mean, GT or not, it is a very sporty car, and putting a torque converter into that transmission and that drivetrain really does, I think, isolate you from the wondrous Ferrari engine that you've got up the front. If you're going to stick a Ferrari engine in a car, you may as well have the flexibility and the control to enjoy it to its utmost potential. And as I say, when I first drove the Gran Turismo with the automatic box, it was a slightly underwhelming experience. Not that it wasn't a great car. That particular car didn't have the sports exhaust, so you lost one of the big elements of what gives you the pleasure of driving this car. So it didn't have a sports exhaust, but it didn't feel much different from driving from any other torque converter sports car. Whereas as soon as I drove the MC Shift version, suddenly it had that edge to it, and I found that was a real deal breaker for me. And it's a shame that they've decided to abandon the MC Shift gearbox in the current Gran Turismo and Gran Cabrio line. The other thing that this gearbox does really well is rev-matching on downshifts. A lot of when you're driving a manual car, if you want to do that, obviously you have to double D-clutch. That's a technique which not everyone can master. Yet here, when we do a downshift, it automatically blips the throttle nicely to match the revs. Let's see if I can demonstrate it. See, it does it automatically. It makes a great sound, and you know, something that you would have to fiddle around with if you were double declutching every change, but this does it for you. See, lovely throttle blip there. So in summary, I think a lot of the reviewers probably didn't really understand what the MC Shift gearbox or a sequential robotized manual gearbox was all about. I think they saw it as being a replacement for an automatic gearbox, and they couldn't understand why it was so jerky and sluggish, or in their view, they couldn't understand. I think you have to view the MC Shift and the Lamborghini E-Gear and the Audi R-Tronic as being essentially manual gearboxes, but with an option to put them in auto if you have to, or if you really want to, but with the benefits of you know, computerized assistance and you know, hydraulic actuation, which increases the speed, the efficiency, and lets you concentrate on the driving experience. Oh, look, I'd be interested to hear your thoughts. I'm very interested to hear feedback on this. If you've driven a sequential manual, what do you think of it? Do you think that it's an option that is, you know, dead now? Or do you prefer dual clutch transmissions, or do you prefer a torque converter automatic? Let me know in the comments. I'll read them all. I'll happily reply to them if I can. Well, I hope you've enjoyed this little discussion about the MC Shift robotized manual transmission, and if you did enjoy it, don't forget to give the like a click. Don't forget to subscribe. You can follow me on Instagram at Maserati Guy 2017. Thanks again for watching, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video.